Hey, good people. This is Rocki with Rocki's Reality, the #1 podcast for unfiltered and unapologetic culture, entertainment, and relationships. Tap in live Thursdays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as I chat with some of the dopest artists, celebrities, influencers, entrepreneurs, and more. Make sure to catch us live Thursdays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Roku. See you soon. Welcome, everyone, to Rocki's Reality. Today is a very special day. I am uber excited. This is definitely going to go down in history as one of my favorite shows. I've had a lot of favorite shows, but this one right here, this is a special guest today that I have, or this evening, I should say. I have with me today Mr. Hill Harper, activist.
Rocki's Reality.
Thank you. Author, activist, um, NAACP winner, attorney by trade, because you did go to law school.
Yes.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And currently candidate for U.S. Senate.
Yes.
So let's give that another hand clap. Everyone, welcome Hill to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be on. Great to be with you in person in this beautiful studio. Great to be here.
I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. And shout out to Kyrie Frazier of Detroit is Different.
Yes. Kyrie Frazier. That's right.
I love it for cultivating the space here.
Absolutely.
So welcome to our space. And I am elated that you appeared in person. I really appreciate that, because a lot of times people are like, can I just do it virtual? Especially now that the pandemic is passing, or I don't know if it's coming back again or whatever. But I'm glad to see you here in person. I really appreciate how you've just been accessible.
Thank you.
I really admire that about you.
And that's what new leadership demands, is accessibility, because everywhere I go across the state meeting with people who are voters, they say, listen, these politicians show up, we see them, they talk, and then once they get elected, we don't see them again until it's election time again.
Yeah.
And so being accessible is what leadership is, because if you want to represent people, you have to be with the people. You have to meet them where they are, and then you have to give them access to you, because then they can't explain what solutions they need. So I'm running the campaign the way I would want to be a U.S. senator. Those things are the same, and therefore accessibility is paramount.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much so. And again, I love the transparency that you're bringing. I've always liked you as an actor, by the way. I've always been moved when you were on screen just by how earnest you are and how you really embody the role, whether it's a good guy or a bad guy, because you've played some roles as well. One of my favorites that I like is the dad you played in the film 1982.
Yeah.
That's not really a film that a lot of people are aware of,
right?
And they should be.
It was an independent film, and it was an art house type film, and I love making that film. We shot that in Philadelphia. It was based off a true story. The writer,
Tommy
director,
Oliver.
Tommy
Shout out
Oliver,
to Tommy Oliver.
who shot films here. Absolutely. And so, I love making that film, and it was just, it was a beautiful story to tell.
Yes, it was.
And those are the types of projects I love doing, because I believe they stand the test of time. Whenever you see that film, I think we made it in like 2012, 2013. Whenever you, maybe even before in that window, whenever you see that film at any point in the future, it's so good that it's going to stand the test of time. And that's what art is supposed to do.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I love making that film.
Because to this day, we still love The Godfather and Scarface,
right.
Gone with the Wind. All of those are classics.
He Got Game.
Exactly. Oh, and
In
Too
Deep.
Deep. Yes, yes. My best friend was like, he was in Too Deep. I was like, yes, girl. He had blonde hair.
Looking like Cisco.
In Too Deep.
And the line everybody says to me, you ain't no cop, Jay Reed.
I love it. I love it. So you definitely have been, and you were in Concussion as well.
Yes,
with Will Smith. So you've been in definitely some Hallmark films, I would say. Not the company Hallmark, but Hallmark as far as essential to entertainment.
And one of my favorites that speaks to, I think, the universal Black family is Lackawanna Blues.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Esapatha Murkison, and it talks about, it's something that's been coming up in this campaign, because I've been talking a lot about the homelessness crisis and the affordable housing crisis, and what I call attainable housing crisis, because what's affordable in one place is different. We need to talk about attainability.
Exactly.
And so she had a boarding house, and back in the day in our communities, the way we dealt with that is rooming houses, and
Yep.
we cared for each other.
Exactly.
And there's a different level. I've been talking about empathy and care, and how come we don't care about each other in the same way anymore, and can we bring that back? And federal government needs to be caring for us, because it's our money that they are using to do
Absolutely.
all
Oh
sorts
my
of
goodness.
things.
Woo.
So we'll get into all that.
Yeah, I'm gonna ring the bell on
Uh-huh.
that one. I gotta ring the bell.
Uh-huh.
Because you're right. I don't feel like my government cares about me that
That's
much.
right.
I don't.
That's right.
Um,
And if
yeah.
and if any entity should, it should be the federal government,
Yes.
because you are paying into this system, and therefore you should be receiving services in return. And if you don't feel that
Absolutely.
you're being cared for by your government, then that's a big problem. And that's shared by a lot of people. Now, here in Michigan, I think the triple blue leadership in the state has been doing a good job. They repealed right to work. They have passed really great voting rights. They've done things about moving forward on the environment, and that's in state. But when we look federally, folks show up and then disappear.
Right. And that is one of the questions I'm going to get to. Someone wanted
Okay,
to ask that. So we're going to get to that.
let's get to that.
But I wanted to ask first, I was doing a little research and found you were born Francis Eugene Harper is your given name.
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
No.
So what was your given name?
My given name is Frank Eugene Hill Harper.
Oh, okay. So thank you. I wanted to
Yeah.
clarify. I'm
For a
glad you
long
clarified.
time.
That's why I was going to ask, how did you get from Frank to Hill? But Hill is a part of your given name.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so my mother's maiden name is Hill.
Okay.
So my mother was Marilyn Hill, and then she got married to my father, became Marilyn Hill Harper.
Okay.
And both my parents met in medical school at an HBCU at Howard Medical School.
All right. Shout out to HBCU.
But my grandfather, Doc Hill, went to Meharry College of Medicine, was a member of a great fraternity called Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, of which I am now a life member of that great body of men. And he opened up a small pharmacy in a small town in South Carolina called Seneca, South Carolina. And he had the only Black-owned pharmacy for miles and miles around. So he served the Black community during Jim Crow segregation in South Carolina. And they called him Doc Hill.
Oh, I love
And
it.
one of my greatest honors is that my name is Hill, because he's the inspiration and he is in the embodiment of that name. And I saw him give away prescription medicine to people who couldn't afford it, trade potatoes, chickens. He was what we just talked about, caring for the community. He was universal health.
So that's where you
Without
got
question.
that
I
from.
got that from my family, seeing my family and understanding that the only reason why we have benefit is to spread benefit. Why else are we here if we're
Right.
not here to serve and help folks out? We're here for such a short period of time on earth.
Right.
If you live to be 110, that's still a snap in the big order of things.
Right.
And at the end of the day, no matter how supposedly famous or great you are, 500 years from now, no one's really gonna care
right.
about you or anybody else.
Right. And I
So
love
you
that.
might as well take care of the folks here while you are here. What are you saving it for? What are you doing?
Right. And I love that, because we seem to promote, society seems to promote this sense of scarcity. Like
That's right.
things are scarce and we have to make prices, the whole supply and demand.
That's right.
So I appreciate that perspective. And so did your parents want you to be a doctor? How did they feel when you went to law school? You went to Harvard Law, by the way.
Harvard Law
Barack
School,
Obama
and
was your classmate.
Barack Obama was my classmate. And I
okay.
also went to the Kennedy School of Government. So I got my master's in government and my JD and my MPA. And my parents, I give them a lot of credit. And I've tried to replicate this with my son, is that they've always said, there's nothing you can't do. There's nothing you can't do. So therefore, they may have had their own desires or their own fears, but I thank God they didn't project them onto me. I thank them that they held them on their own. And so I've done all sorts of things that maybe they may have felt some kind of way about, but they never projected it on me. They never said, no, you shouldn't do that, or don't do that, you can't do that, or that's not going to work, or you know, and they don't project, they kept it to themselves. And so that gave me the breadth and the ability to not have to deal with fear projection. I think that we project way too much fear
You're
on our
absolutely
kids.
right. Yeah.
I believe and I've tried to consciously not do that with my son. I remember going to playgrounds and just hearing parents project fear. Get down off that. You're
Right.
gonna
You're
hurt
gonna
yourself.
fall.
Stop. You're
Right.
gonna do.
Right.
And it's amazing. Kids aren't just like petrified,
Right.
And so I've tried to consciously not project fear on my son Pierce, and
Especially not in this world. It's already so many things.
so many
As a young
traumas.
Black man.
Well, we'll talk
Yeah.
about that when we talk about reforming our gun laws.
Right. Right. We're definitely going to get to
Okay.
that. Ooh, and we've got limited time. And I just want to tell everyone now, all your questions, we're going to get to as many questions as possible.
All right.
But please know every question won't be answered, but we're going to try to do the best we can. So, speaking of Pierce,
Yes.
let's go into the video
Okay.
that pretty much was like an announcement of your
My candidacy.
your
This is my launch
candidacy.
video
Yes.
called Dear Pierce.
I love it.
Dear Pierce, I'm recording this video for you because I'm about to make a big announcement. And it's going to be tough for us. I'm not going to be able to tuck you in every night or do our nighttime prayers together. But these are sacrifices so many hardworking families have to make every single day. Fighting for what you believe in is hard enough, but it's worth doing when you found something that makes your heart beat faster. And for me, it's you. Yeah, I've started a nonprofit, owned a small business in Detroit, even beat cancer. Served on President Obama's cancer panel, earned Ivy League degrees, and written best-selling books. But for me, adopting you is the greatest thing I've done in my life. You see, the world you're growing up in doesn't feel like it's getting any better. It's more divisive and more dangerous. When you told me that you were afraid to go to school because of shootings, it's not freedom. Our economy works for the richest, while the most vulnerable have to work even harder than ever to keep up. That's not freedom. At the core of so much of this are too many politicians in office that don't really care about people. You see, what I learned on my grandfather's farm growing up is that when you plant something in good soil, you get something much better in return. That's why I'm raising you in Michigan, a community where people are kind, work hard, and believe the future is worth fighting for. Because every child in every neighborhood, in every town across Michigan deserves the freedom to flourish. I believe our government should work for the people, be a force for good, and protect our freedoms. And that won't happen if we keep electing the same type of people to office. That's why I'm running for the United States Senate, to represent Michigan. I love you, son, and I hope to make you proud.
Oh my goodness. When I first watched that, I cried. I'm not gonna cry again because I just got my lashes done, y'all. So I'm not gonna cry again, but that is so moving. Um, and as a mother myself and as a social worker for over 20 years, I did foster care for almost 10 years. And I worked with a lot of at-risk children who ended up having to be adopted. What drove your decision to adopt Pierce?
It's God. God all the way. I wasn't looking to adopt. I wasn't out there. I had met a guy who was a lawyer in the adoption space. We had been talking, and that was it. And, I learned, because I knew deep down I wanted to adopt eventually, but I thought I was going to get married, thought I was going to have some bio kids and adopt. I wanted to sort of recreate a big family.
Okay.
You know,
Because are you the only child?
no, I have an
No.
older brother.
Okay. Okay. So just two
But
of you.
yeah,
Okay.
just two of us. And I just thought I wanted to do that. But sometimes God has other plans.
Exactly.
And so I got a call right before Thanksgiving in 2015. And I'd met that guy over the summer. Hadn't heard from him. I didn't know why he was calling. And he explained to me a situation that wasn't the best situation. and that this woman who's having a baby, young woman, needed help.
Mm,
And at first, I thought it was just a call for me to just help, get some prenatal medical care,
right.
get a housing. But then I heard it in my head. This is your son. This
Oh,
is your
wow.
son. So um, I literally went from never having changed a diaper in my life to 3 weeks later holding a newborn baby, and my life
Did you have a nanny
changed.
to help you? Was it just you, or
I
did you have?
no, I
Did your mom
what do
come
they
help you?
call
Did
what do they call the person that you hire
au
that's
pair,
the no that when you newborn baby and they stay overnight and help,
nanny?
not a
No, no, no,
nanny, but it
no.
was a
Au
night
pair.
nurse. They
Okay,
call it a
night
night
nurse.
nurse. I think it's
Okay.
called a night nurse.
Mm-hmm.
But they're folks that help new parents, and I definitely needed help. I'd taken some parenting classes leading up to it, but
But
that
nothing
nothing
prepares you for
compares. Yeah,
3:38 in the morning when they have
and
an
and
explosion.
and so one of the best stories is I read all these articles about how important breast milk was for development, and so I went all over. I was living in New York City at the time, so I went all over New York City doing. It was almost like doing drug deals. I would show
Try
up
to get some breast milk.
show up at a mom's house because a lot of these mothers it was like gold. It was so
Right.
valuable to
They're
them, and
selling
it
it.
would
Yeah.
stay it would stay good up until 6 months,
Mhm.
and they didn't want it to go to waste. And so when I would show up, I got on a listserv of a big, huge mom's listserv, and then someone said, there's this guy who adopted a baby. He really wants to have breast milk for his son, and then I would show up, and it was almost like sometimes their eyes would pop out of their head. The last thing they thought was this black man showing up to get their milk. I'd show up with a cooler, and I load it all into the cooler like we were doing a drug deal.
Right, right.
And then I'd be hauling off with my cooler, getting in my
Uh,
Uber, and going back and packing it in my freezer.
right.
But listen, I have so much love and empathy for those moms who shared their breast milk with me so I could share it with my son, who has a brilliant mind and is huge amounts of energy. And so thank you. If any of you moms
Are
know they
listening.
are listening, thank you.
Th-
Thank you to all the moms.
Right, really, really.
Thank you to
Women,
all
period.
the moms.
Even
Women,
if you're not
period. Even
a
if you're
mother,
not a
you
mother,
mother in a
you
way. You
do.
do.
And
You
when
do.
women show up in ways that I think many of us men have to learn to show up better and
Mm,
more consistently, and and with more grit. Women have a lot of grit and the ability to work through issues and problems and do this work. So I have so much respect for women and our women.
right. And we're depending on a lot of women to help carry the campaign as
Without
well.
question. I can't
So
win if I don't have
uh,
a whole cadre
let's
of
let it be
support,
known.
female support. I need it. I please y'all go to hillharper.com, support me.
Right,
Um,
absolutely.
we need you. We need you.
Okay. So let's get into it. You say you are not a politician.
No.
You are a candidate for the people. Explain
Yes.
that because, and I went to the dictionary to look up politician, and the formal definition says a person who is professionally involved in politics, especially as a holder of or a candidate for an elected office. But it also had a derogatory definition, which I think is what you mean when you say you're not a politician. A person who acts in a manipulative and devious way, typically to gain advancement within an organization.
Right.
And so, is that what you're rejecting when you say, I am not a politician?
Yes, and I'm also rejecting part of the first one that talks about professional. I'm not a
Right.
professional
Because, and that's
seeker of office.
okay.
Because the part of the problem we have is many of the politicians are professional government folk,
Mm,
professional politicians. In other words, they're
mm.
more concerned with staying in their job than serving the people,
Oop,
which
I
which
gotta
is
ring the bell on that
where the
again.
problem fundamentally lies.
Mhm.
Because I'm tired of looking and feeling like many folks I talk to across the state of Michigan, that the person who's in office sees that office as a pedestal,
Right.
as if the people who put them there work for them rather than what it is, a platform to represent the interests and needs of the people. The person who sits in office is an extension or representation, or at least should be,
of the
of the
people,
people,
right?
particularly in Washington, D.C. When the people of Michigan send a representative to Washington, D.C., like their 2 U.S. senators, those 2 U.S. senators represent the entire state of Michigan to the country and represent our issues and represent who we are and need to be accessible, visible, and instruments and arms of the people's will. Every decision should be filtered through, is this the people's will? Does this benefit the people of Michigan and the people that I have been sent to Washington to represent? And a lot of people have to learn what a senator even does. I mean, at the end of the day, you have,
Let's break it down in
let's break it
layman's
down
terms.
very, very quickly.
So for the people who,
You have 3 branches of government.
okay, right?
There used to be a song that was on Saturday morning TV. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm
Right.
sitting up on Capitol Hill.
Yes,
So here we go.
I
You have
remember
the
that.
judicial branch. I went to Harvard Law School, and that is all about the law. It's about adjudicating and ruling on the law that exists. That's what they're supposed to do. That's why it's so horrific that the Supreme Court has been politicized the way it has. The idea of the judicial branch is not to be political. Okay. That's why they get lifetime appointments. So they're not supposed to be political. But we can get to that if you want to talk about it. Then you have the executive branch, is where the president is, the vice president, and all of the executives. Now, what the executive branch really does is the captain of the ship, so to speak, to make sure the country is running the way it's supposed to run for the best interests of all people. And they sign bills into law. They can also veto them. They have veto power. But where the real power lies is in the legislature, where you have the Congress.
lawmakers.
You have the Congress of the United States, which is made up of the House of Representatives, which you have a whole lot of House reps, or what people call Congress people, and the number that each state gets is dictated by its growth, or lack thereof, in comparison to other states. So therefore, Michigan, unfortunately, has been losing a congressional district every 10 years because it's redone every 10 years based off the census. Now, we know the census is flawed in many ways, but we won't get into that.
Right.
But every state gets 2 U.S. senators. And the Senate is where the real power lies, because ultimately your senators are responsible for many different things, not the least of which is conferring judges on the federal bench, which makes rulings, etc. The Senate also, you are writing and creating legislation, which are laws, and you can amend certain things like the Constitution and certain fundamental things, and you can codify certain things like the fact that we want to actually codify women's reproductive freedom.
Yes.
We want to codify that. So it's not about Roe v. Wade and a judicial or the Supreme Court making a decision about a court case. It's actually codified by the legislature. And that takes it out of the judiciary and into the legislature. That's just an example. Same thing. I want to add a right to the Constitution, the right to read. We are educating our children.
Yes.
They have a right to literacy and a right to read. We need to codify that so that federal resources will automatically go to those school districts and places where they've been derelict on that duty, where they're graduating kids that can't even write or read. 91% of Detroit school kids are below grade level in reading and in math. That we have to bring the resources to bear. It's not the teacher's fault. It's the system's fault. So let's be really clear about this.
Yes.
And
the funding needs to be in place so we can have those resources.
They actually do it in reverse right now. You have all these core testing, and I was talking to these educators, and they're saying, Hill, we have to pass these kids along, because with the core model, what happens if you don't pass the kids along, they start taking funding away from you, which is the exact reverse of what should happen. If a school is underperforming, you should bring resources to it, not be taking it away. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. So that makes, and as a social worker, that's near and dear again to
and
my
social
heart,
workers are heroes. I had a conversation with social worker, and they're trying to do this whole testing thing with social workers and eliminate them and all the cost and the testing. It's ridiculous when people are trying to bring mental health work, social work, and other things to communities that need, yet you can't get the hours you need working under a certain type of social worker to get the accreditation. and then have the test.
And
It's
then you're
all these
paying
barriers.
$700 for the testing to be certified. All of these different bureaucratic red tape
Exactly.
that you have to go
Exactly.
through. So that makes me want to transition to your platform. And so on your website it says climate justice,
Yes.
jobs and economic disparity,
Yes.
universal health care,
Yes.
end of filibuster. But I've also heard you talk about education
Yes.
and about getting the student loan debt. So possibly
Yes.
continuing with Biden with what
Student
he's
loan
been
debt
doing.
relief. I want to take it even further. I believe in high quality free pre-K. When you're investing in young minds, it's the best investment we can
Right.
make. It pays you back 8, 9, 10 fold. There's no investment that pays you back like that. And the simple thing about it is you save so much on the back end because you'll have lower incarceration rates and all of these other things.
Exactly.
It costs our state significantly more to incarcerate someone than to send them to Michigan State.
Exactly.
So let's figure that out.
And
So
hopefully they go to University of Michigan though. Go
okay,
blue.
okay.
I had
There,
to put
hey,
that in there.
let's be
As a
clear.
Wolverine, I've got to put that in
Yeah,
there.
that is
I'm just,
good. There
but just,
are 70
but just to
wonderful
go to
college,
college, period. Yeah,
universities,
right.
and
Just
community
go to
college in
college,
the state of
period.
Michigan. And college and community college should be free.
Right.
It should
Absolutely.
be
Absolutely.
because we used to have quality public education through grade 12 free. Now, post high school is necessary in today's idea economy, whether it's community college, whether it's trade or a high skilled trade school, or whether it's college, 4-year college. The point is that should be covered, and we
Accessible.
shouldn't be saddling young people with the
With debt.
cost and
Right.
that level of debt. It stifles entrepreneurship, it
Yes.
stifles job creation, it stifles their ability to want to learn and to do new things and create new solutions in the world. And so student loan debt relief is a massive thing for me.
Right. And so also I appreciate how you stated about banning weapons
Yes.
of mass murder.
Yes.
Because I agree with you as far as our children should not have to go to school and go through these drills. It's
Exactly. It's
traumatizing
traumatizing.
having them get on the floor. I get it. Like
You would
like
never do that
fire
at home. You'd
right,
never do that.
right,
Would you do that at oh, get on the cupboard.
right.
You're not going to scare your child that way, and you're not going to traumatize. Yes, we're allowing that to happen at school because we will not take on the NRA and the billion-dollar gun lobby and say enough is enough. We're not going to allow this in this country anymore. And I don't even want to get into a Second Amendment debate with the NRA.
Uh-oh.
They want to have Second Amendment debates and call a gun control. I'm not talking about gun control. I'm talking about banning weapons of mass murder, the reclassification of high mag, semi-automatic, and automatic weaponry as weapons of mass murder. My father used to take me skeet shooting and things. Keep your guns, keep your rifle, keep your pistol. That's okay. That's what the guns. When the Second Amendment was written, an arm or a musket, it took you 3 minutes to load it, and you get to shoot it once. This technology is a completely different set of it's a different weapon. It's just like we don't allow people to come in and buy bombs and high grade explosives. Those are weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass murder. So is an automatic, semi-automatic, high mag weapon. I want to reclassify them and ban them and do very high value gun buybacks by the government. It's been shown to work across the world.
High value
Meaning you pay a lot for these guns to get them.
to bring their guns.
People say, man, no, but there's a bunch of these guns already out there, man. No one's going to bring them back, dude. And I'm like, no.
If we offer you the money.
Listen, my grandmama used to say you could see the state of an economy by driving past a pawn shop and see how full the parking lot is. People are hurting right now financially. They're hurting. And if you offer the right amount of money, they'll compare their semi-automatic weapon with that money. I'm like,
right, exactly. You offer me $2,000 for it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
we're gonna get these guns off the street.
Right. I love it. I love that. So the main question I'm sure people have been inundating you with, what makes you qualified to be a U.S. Senator? Okay. A lot of people are saying, like, I like him as an actor, I like him as an author and an activist, but what does he know about policy? What does he know about being a senator?
A couple different things. I believe the U.S. Senate is a representative body, or at least it should be, and it hasn't been. In the history of this country, there have been 2,002 U.S. senators, but only 11 have been African American. And two of those 11 were appointed right after Reconstruction and Mississippi, and they were, they were gone quick. And there have been a higher percentage of African American presidents than there have been African American senators in the U.S.
Right, it's only 3 black men right now in the U.S. Senate. Only 3.
Only 3 right now. And even if
Agree.
there've only been 11 in history, and even if there were 11 right now, we would still be underrepresented.
Exactly.
So, and I'm not just talking about the idea of racial diversity. If I was, because life experience is what you bring to the United States Senate. So if I
Mm.
was elected to the United States Senate, I'd be one of very few African Americans, yes. And I'd be bringing that life experience. I'd also be the only current union member in the United States. So I'd be bringing that, particularly in a time when there is a mounting pressure of corporations attempting to crush unions, even though the top 1% is making more than ever. They still want to crush the
Mm.
labor, and I'm a fervent advocate for unions. I also would be one of very few U.S. senators with a school-age child, and that experience of children. I would also be one of
Brings a
the
different
very few
perspective.
senators that's a small business owner. And so
Oh.
so that's what needs to happen. You need representation that represents the people,
Oh.
because I've had experience and life experience people. Now, we can go back and talk about my educational background and talk about the fact I went to Harvard Law School and graduated at the top of my class. I went to the Kennedy School of Government, where I got my master's in government and graduated at the top of my class. And then President Obama appointed me to the president's cancer panel, where we made recommendations to the White House around cancer policy. And then I've written 4 New York Times best-selling books about real issues facing people and solving problems. You know, plus I'm a small business owner, plus I'm a father. And so that thought, I'll put my resume up against anybody.
Let's do it. And you wouldn't be the first one, let's note, who actually did not have formal experience, who's held a political office. Let's just put that out there.
There's been plenty.
You know, it's been plenty, too many. I want to go back to the small business owner
Yes.
part where you own the roasting plant, the coffee
Coffee shop
shop
in downtown
down
Detroit. It's the
Detroit.
best
Love
coffee
it.
in the state of Michigan. It is.
I'm not a coffee drinker, but hopefully you
We
all
have
serve
great
tea.
tea.
Oh,
Great
I'm a tea
tea. Our
drinker.
tea is
Okay.
phenomenal.
So a friend of mine wanted me to ask, what are you going to do as far as supporting small businesses, micro enterprises?
Yeah. Small businesses are critical, particularly as far as community development and job creation.
Absolutely.
And I think they're the bedrock of that. And
Mhm.
so when we think about enterprise, unfortunately, federally, the resources go towards the big players who have
Yep.
lobbyists in Washington. So
Mhm.
you see us bailing out banks to the tune of trillions of dollars, but you don't see money being made available in the form of zero interest loans for folks who want to
Mm.
create a podcast studio and create a business in a community. The first 3 years of a new business are their most vulnerable time.
Right.
We should be able to undergird these businesses, because they're the ones that will be creating jobs in the community, and investment matters. Being able to invest, there are too many neighborhoods across the state of Michigan where within 2 to 3 miles you cannot get any fresh produce.
Exactly. Food deserts.
Yes,
Exactly.
and I don't even choose to use the term food desert, and I'll tell you why. Deserts are naturally occurring in nature. I
Mm.
use the term food apartheid
Ooh.
because they're systemic and they're
Mm.
purposeful. This is systemic problem. It's not natural,
No.
because it's about lack of investment and lack of ownership of the people in communities. Because if you put up a farmer's market in these neighborhoods, people would be buying the produce. And
Absolutely.
so what we have is bad government policy, where we give people SNAP money. The only place they can do it in their communities is a 3-inch plexiglass place where they can buy Funyuns or
Right.
Fago or Verner's.
Right.
That's it. Maybe a single buy banana.
Yep.
Yet
And the fruit isn't fresh.
our farmers 2 hours to the north are having a problem, particularly the small farmers competing against big ag, because they pay 10x more for fertilizer. They can't compete on price. And so why can't we solve 2 problems at once? Why can't we say, okay, you're going to be able to accept this SNAP money from this community, but we're going to undergird to help you lower your price and cost, but you're going to have to bring this fresh produce into
Right.
the community,
Neighborhoods, the urban neighborhoods, not just the suburbs.
into a farmer's market in the neighborhoods that are
And make
experiencing
it
food apartheid, and make it available,
affordable.
make it affordable and available. And you are going to also be financially incentivized to hire the people from that community
Mm.
to sell within that community. So now we created jobs in the community, we helped small farming, we created fresh food and healthy food in the community, and we allowed the same people that were spending that are getting SNAP dollars to actually eat healthy. We can
Right.
solve multiple problems. It's like a triple
And their
net win.
children can grow and their brains can develop
That's right.
without high fructose corn syrup and
And
things
you
of
want
that
to know
nature.
why none of that ever happens? It's because nobody is in Washington advocating for a solution like that, because there's nobody from those smaller constituency groups writing checks to them, or we're still handing under the table legislation saying, hey, this, I'm a special interest group, I'm a big ag lobbyist, I represent this grocery store chain, I want this legislation passed.
That's it.
That's it.
Exactly. Okay. So we've got a little under 10 minutes left, and I appreciate everyone watching. Unfortunately, we won't get to all the questions, but we appreciate you all tapping in. But one main question I want to ask, you are a Midwesterner
Yes.
from Iowa.
Born in Iowa.
Born in
That's
Iowa.
better than being born in Ohio. If you're
Yes,
yes.
by the way. Yes. Again, because I'm a Wolverine.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to ask, why Michigan, and specifically why Detroit? Because a lot of people's like, why did he end up here? So how did
You
you
know
end
what?
up in
You know what? You know
Michigan
what? You know
and
what breaks
specifically
you know what
Detroit?
breaks my heart about when people say, why did he end up here? Is because what in some ways they're signaling is saying, if I had a choice, I wouldn't have come here. And that's a sad state, because I chose Michigan because it's the best people in the world are here. And I wish a lot of more people need to choose Michigan like I chose Michigan. And that's what I want to
'Cause
represent.
we do have the Great Lakes.
We did the Great,
I mean,
listen,
it's beautiful
you
here
have
in
the
the
Great
summer.
Lakes. You know, you have the Sleeping Bear Dunes, which are
Right.
beautiful if you ever run up those. You have so much outdoor space, but then you also just have the best people in the world. People that have grit and a backbone and a hard work ethic. People who have also this soul and creativity and a sense of humor and ability to run the dozens and laugh. And then you have people who are just kind, that have that grandmama kindness. Come on here, baby, have a lemonade kindness.
Right.
And there's very few places I've ever been in the world where people have a combination of all of those things. There's certain places where there's two of the three, but nobody has all three except here. And so when I came here, I'd met so many people from Detroit because of my roommate, Brian Mathis, was the University of Michigan grad. He was my roommate for 4 years at Harvard. And he married Carla Diggs, who's Judge Diggs' daughter from here, from Detroit. They went to Cass High School.
Oh yeah,
And,
CT.
you know,
Hey,
I
fired up.
met
My other alma mater. Yes.
Swan Loomis. I met Swan Loomis. I met Karen Brown. I met Randy Washington, who married Swan. He went to Michigan State. So I met a lot of Michiganders, a lot of Detroiters. But when I came back here to do films about a little over a decade ago, when Michigan had a media tax incentive,
Right.
which is ridiculous that they got rid of, which we're going to fight to bring back. So
Exactly.
stand by for that. We're fighting to bring that back.
Right.
And so
more art period in the
art
schools,
period.
more arts in the school.
And
period.
so I met some of the best people in the world. And a lot of my friends, I had a fraternity brother named Derek Albert. He was like, man, you need to buy a house here, man. And it stuck in my head. And I wasn't ready to do that at that moment. But I said to myself, when I have kids, I'm going to raise my kids here because I want my kids to turn out like the people here more than the people in Hollywood. So I adopted my son, like we said, just right at the end of 2015, December 19th is the day he was born. And then I got a house here in 2016, and I bought my coffee business a year later.
Okay.
So I've been here for 7 years. I've owned my coffee shop for 6 years, and second only to adopting my son, moving here is the best decision I ever made. And I wish people here would be so proud of that, because we need to encourage other people to move here so we stop losing congressional districts.
Right. And Detroit is definitely a gem. And I have to I tell people on a national level, I know it looks a
There's
certain
no place
way,
like it.
but when you're here, so do you feel, since it's 83 counties
83
in Michigan,
counties.
and I heard you say how fundamentally the farmer in Remus, Michigan wants the same as the mom on Mack and Drexel.
That's right.
And so me as a social worker, a lot of times I've seen the disparities in urban areas versus rural areas. So what do you mean by that when you say they fundamentally want the same? Because a lot of those farmers, I'm gonna be honest, they voted for 45.
Yeah, they did. And
so how is it that they
let's break this
fundamentally
down.
want the same as the mom on Mack and Drexel?
Well, this is the point about what the technology of politics, and the sad fact is that poor and rural white folks have been convinced to vote Republican, and poor and urban Black folks have been convinced to vote Democrat.
Right.
And when they fundamentally have very similar issues and desire for solutions. One, access to quality health care without
Mhm.
filing for personal bankruptcy and having it be
Right.
close. In the rural areas across this state, there are local and rural hospitals closing at alarming rates. And in some cases, you live out in a place, you will not get medical care for over an hour. The
Mm.
corner of Mac and Drexel, you may call 911 and not get medical
Okay.
care for over an
Okay.
hour.
All right.
And so those issues are similar. High quality, affordable health care that does not have you choosing between a prescription drug and paying for your mortgage or your rent. The other thing
Okay.
is safe schools for their kids to attend. And the idea of being able to have a quality education for your child, but also having them feel safe. And when you know you leave them in school, they're going to come home. But both sets want that. The other side of it is the economic development. They want jobs. They want to earn a living wage. The idea of not falling in, the two massive pieces of debt in our country are student loan debt and credit card debt. And people are getting more and more underwater because all they're doing is paying their monthly minimums. They're not cutting
Right.
into the principal. And that's happening both in the rural areas and in
And
the
in the
cities.
urban.
And
Okay.
so the fact is, both groups should be voting for a candidate like me because I want to represent all of Michigan and those groups and their issues and solve all of those problems simultaneously as their representative. It has nothing to do with Democrat, Republican. It has to do with solving problems
Being a person.
and being a
People.
human
Family.
person that is advocating for families across Michigan, advocating for the people. This is a platform that's powered by the people, and that's why we need funding, y'all. We need you to go to hillharper.com.
Okay. Yeah.
Please go to hillharper.com and $2, $5, $10, $15, $25, whatever you can afford. No amount is too small because we are a grassroots campaign with many thousands and tens of thousands of donors. That's what we need. And please share it with your network.
Absolutely.
Share that link with you. Go into your phone. We all have networks. Text it to your friends and family and say, hey, give this brother $5. That's the only way
It
he's going to get
adds up.
elected.
It
Give
adds
this
up.
brother $5. It adds up.
Okay. So we've got 2 minutes, and I want to finish on a fun note.
Okay.
Because anyone who knows me knows that I'm about the business, but I like to have a little fun
Rocki's
too.
reality.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to talk about your favorite things.
Okay, let's go.
Favorite food.
Ooh. Woo, that's my
I heard you say
favorite
Detroit pizza
food.
is the best. That's on
Detroit
record.
pizza
It is the
is the best,
best.
but pizza's not my favorite food.
Okay.
So my favorite food is actually uh, 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 collard greens, black eyed peas, and turkey
Oh, I
with
love
with
it.
with with real fresh homemade cranberry sauce.
So not out the can. Not out
Not
the
out the
can.
can, not out the can.
Okay. Favorite activity with Pierce.
Oh, we were playing catch today. I like playing catch. I want him to not be. I hate to say it, one of those kids where when the ball comes, it hits him in the face.
Right, right. Got
So I
toughen
want
up,
him to be
Pierce.
able to catch the ball and throw the ball. And so we've been playing catch.
Okay. Basketball or football?
You know what? I was great at both. If you saw the movie He Got Game, I played with all pros
Right,
in
right.
basketball, but then I was all state in California when I was in high school in football, and I played in football in college, but I was never that big. But so I enjoy basketball more, and I enjoy watching and going to basketball games more than football games.
Okay.
Now, I still love football. I was probably on an aggregate, since I'm not that tall, I was probably better at football than I was at basketball. I didn't play basketball in college, but I did play football in college.
I love that. And speaking of football, I see you're going to be at my alma mater on Saturday. They or are you going to be there at their football game volunteer signature gathering event?
The signature gathering
Oh,
again of a football game, but Saturday, I'm going to be up north
oh, north.
in
Okay.
Petoskey.
Oh, so they're doing it there. They're doing it there for you.
Yes,
So shout out to my alma mater during the
volunteers.
Michigan game versus East Carolina. They're doing a volunteer signature gathering
That's
event.
right.
So you won't
My
actually be there.
surrogates for the campaign. And that's what we need. And this is really important. I'm glad you mentioned that. See, campaign is not a me thing; it's a we thing.
Right.
This thing doesn't work if it's just Hill Harper and it's about Hill. This is about the people. It's about surrogates. Join our campaign. Go on to hillharper.com and volunteer. We need people all over the country volunteering, but particularly we need people all over in all 83 counties in Michigan
Absolutely.
And we have things that you could do to help us build this movement. We're building a movement because fundamentally we need people to thrive over survive.
Absolutely.
And
Ooh, I always
too
say
many,
that.
too
Are
many
you
people.
have to thrive, not just survive.
That's right.
I
That's
love
it.
that.
And that's what we're working on, because people finally are starting to believe in better, because we talk about believing in better. But at the end of the day, the reason why you believe is to buy in, to start doing the work to make it so, to make it better. It's not just going to get better.
Right. You
We got to
do
do the work
We got
to
do the
make
work.
it so. So
Right. Well, I thank you, Hill,
thank
for
you.
coming. I
Thank you so much
appreciate
for
you.
having me, Rocki.
And I'm definitely willing to do the work with you. People can
Thank
go to hillharper.com,
Yes.
sign up for the emails, follow you at Hill Harper on social media.
Yeah, just at Hill Harper on social. But the campaign website is the key, because that's going to be our foundation from which we grow people, and people volunteer. People also can give and donate. And so that is the key piece there.
Okay, absolutely.
HillHarper.com.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. We're gonna kind of cut it a little short today because
Thank
Hill
you,
has to
everybody.
run and go pick up Pierce. So I know how that
gotta
is
go
as a
get
parent.
Pierce.
We gotta go get
The
Pierce.
sun's going down.
Right. Exactly. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you again,
Thank
Harper,
you.
for joining us. And please know that you have a spot here on Rocky's Reality. This is not goodbye. This is see you later.
That's right.
Please come back and visit, because it's gonna be a long campaign.
It is.
We got
The
next
next
year.
year. We will come back and talk about where we are in the campaign, and
Yep.
talk about all the thousands of volunteers that this show helped create, the thousands of dollars that this show helped bring in through small
Absolutely.
dollar donors. So thank you. God bless you, and thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
You too. You're welcome. All right. Thank you everyone for watching Rocky's Reality. We will see you next week, 7 p.m. sharp.